Boys, I have a classic one for you. If you want to go fast, you're in the right place. Some of you got upset that I made fun of sport bike riders a while ago. Come on, it's all for fun here. Relax. Motorcycles are by and large the most accessible way to achieve speeds humans are not biologically designed to experience, and it feels way faster when you're on them. Who wants to spend nearly 100 grand on a big dumb sports car when you can spend 10% of that on a bike that will outperform just about every vehicle on the road, and all you have to do is risk life and limb to do it? That's not too bad of a trade, is it? While motorcycles seem to be becoming more and more expensive, unfortunately creeping into the category of luxury products, rest assured, there are still countless S-tier bikes available for less than $8,000 that are fast, true, and tried platforms. So tear up that loan application and instead start saving your lunch money, because here are 10 of the fastest motorcycles you can actually afford to buy. Okay, before the Busa, which truly is one of my goated all-time favorite bikes, I've owned one. It was fantastic. I blew it up. I turboed it. You all know the story. Before there was the ZX-14R, there was the CBR 1100XX Super Blackbird. Honda was really a completely different animal 20 years ago. Now, that may be changing. We got boosted V3 motorcycles on the horizon. Who the hell knows what the cocaine budget is at Big Red nowadays? But they made bikes that were exciting and innovated back then. The tight competition with the rest of the Big Four, and even Ducati really lit a fire under their tuchus. And the Super Blackbird was just one of the most notorious bikes to come from this era. Motorcyclists were just built different in the late 90s and early 2000s. The ability to say a motorcycle had the fastest top speed of any production bike actually meant something to people. Why? I have no idea. It was really important back then. The creation of the Super Blackbird was aimed specifically at clinching this title, which was previously held by the Kawasaki ZX-11. The Super Blackbird has an 1137cc inline four-cylinder engine that makes 164 horsepower and 93 foot-pounds of torcos. This machine was able to go as fast as 188 miles an hour all the way back in 1997, before several of you were born. Yeah, Jared, that's right. You weren't born then. You weren't. It wouldn't be until the Busa hit the scene in 1999 that the title of world's fastest production motorcycle would be stripped from that bike. But for those 2 years between 97 and 99, the Blackbird reigned supreme. Now here's what you gotta know. The Super Blackbird occupies a cool space in the used market right now, where they've yet to hit ultimate collector status, so they can still be found for pretty affordable prices. The bike was produced until 2007, so there's still a handful of them still floating around in pretty nice condition, and they are still fast as hell. A 20-year-old model with some typical wear and tear can be had for less than $5 grand, whereas pristine showroom collector's editions float around $7,500. These bikes are beautiful, they go fast, and they're very unique. And those who know, know. You see those two X's on the side of the fairings? That thing's quick. Now, for the 2009 model year, the Yamaha R1 received a massive redesign, and maybe I'm feeling nostalgic or something, as we've seen new or updated bikes releases lately here at the end of the year, and very rarely do they offer anything new or truly novel. Again, even though we have seen some crazy stuff at EICMA, it's just the same cross-platformed engines, tweaked aesthetic choices, or even more tech on bikes that don't need it. Like, can you imagine what it would be like to see a superbike get a total overhaul the way the R1 did in 2009? I'm also really fond of this particular vintage of R1 because this generation R1 was the one that Ben Spies won in 2009 with on his rookie year in World Superbike. And come on, he just looks so good on this bike. No one looked as good as Ben Spies did on a 2009 R1. Anyway, the R1 was totally revamped for this generation that ran from 2009 to 2014. This was the beginning of the famous cross-plane 270-degree crank inline 4 that the R1 would become famous for. It was borrowed from the MotoGP project at the time. Rossi was in his heyday. It was just super cool. And it has the little bug headlights. It's just amazing. In addition to a whole new engine, which was good for 191 horsepower and 76 foot-pounds of torque, by the way, this bike's handling was fine-tuned thanks to changes in frame and suspension, and it has the undertail pipes. They just look so sick. The subframe was redesigned for lighter weight and improved mass centralization. This generation of R1 has a pretty unique styling too, with the round headlights as mentioned and a weighted position to make room for ram air intakes. It just looks great. I still think it looks really good. The R1, much like the R6, is kind of floating in this nebulous zone somewhere between a dated early model of an existing platform or an outright modern classic. So there creates some variance in the pricing to be sure. Some people are Looney Tunes and thinks they're selling a 2011 R1 for $15,000. No one's gonna buy that. But it looks like you can find a 2009 R1 for right around $8,000 at the lower end of the scale. Okay, and since we're dropping on the topic of legendary Yamaha R bikes, the Yamaha R6, specifically the 2008 to 2016 2009 models really hold a premier place in the ranks of super sport history. During these 2 years, the R6 was making the most power it ever has while weighing the least it ever would. This is the vintage R6 that you want to get. Trust me, this is the one to get. This is the one I bought as a giveaway bike back in 2023. It's awesome. The 599cc four-cylinder makes 127 horsepower and 43 teensy tiny foot-pounds of torque while weighing at just 414 pounds wet. Those are still solid stats today. For the 2008 model year, the R6 received a new YCCI variable length intake system to really maximize top-end power at high engine speeds, a place where the power band the R6 is known to live a majority of its life. What more do we really need to say about the R6? It won like 10 World Super Sport Championships. It's been ridden by the most elite tier of motorcycle street squids throughout history. Used R6s have kind of gotten out of control pricing in these days, but I think you should certainly be able to get an 08 or an 09 R6 for less than $8,000. I bought one, I think, for like $7,200 a few years ago. You can do it, I promise. If you are looking to buy a brand new bike today that offers a ton of value, the Triumph Street Triple would be a good place to look. They're one of my favorite bikes, but finding a used model provides even more value. When the Street Triple was updated to the 765 in 2018, the prior 675 models from 2013 to 2017 seemingly halved in value. It looks like this gen of Street Triple are all selling for like $5,000 or $6,000 all day. The famed 675cc 3-cylinder detuned from the Daytona was putting down 106 horsepower and 50 foot-pounds of torque during the entire duration of the Street Triple 675 from 2007 to 2017. In 2013, the Street Triple was significantly updated from the previous generation, borrowing from that updated Daytona generation. It used a new frame, a new exhaust, new suspension, and new wheels. All these improvements made this bike lighter and handle better, and it's still really good. In 2013, the Street Triple R weighed just 403 pounds. This is 16 pounds lighter than the 765R sold today. The Street Triple has always held a spot as a super fun middleweight bike, and a used gen in good condition provides an insane value. The sweepstakes for the Ninja 500 is almost over. At the end of November, your chances to win this bike will be gone. Head over to the website, become a member on yammynoob.co to get your best chances to win this Ninja 500. I've given away over 54 motorcycles on my time here on YouTube, so I think I know what I'm doing. Head to the website, don't miss your chance to win. This one is gonna be gone before you know it. Besides the Hayabusa and the SV650, one could argue that Suzuki's greatest achievement came in 2005 with the release of the K5 GSX-Rs. When it was released, it made significant improvements over the previous gen. It had slightly larger, more powerful engine, a brand new frame, new brakes, and new exhaust. When it was released, it was near the top of the best power-to-weight ratios for production motorcycles, and truthfully, it set the standard for what superbikes were going to be. Famously, BMW used it as the reference point for the S1000RR they launched in 2009. Suzuki had this locked down in 2005, baby. This bike was so good. It put down 170 horsepower and 87 foot-pounds of torque, which really is not too far behind what you'd see out of a modern leader bike. The K5 and K6 GSX-Rs from 2005 and 2006 were the last Suzuki superbikes to be produced prior to Euro 3 emissions, meaning they were able to squeeze a lot of power out of that engine without hindrance of emissions control systems. So this gen was kind of the OG superbike era for Suzuki. And guess what? No traction control, baby. No ABS on some of these models either. This is a death machine, a certified piss missile. Maybe that's why they've since decided to never update their engines ever again, because they never got over the loss of the K5, the K6 GSX-1000. Seriously, they still use a version of this engine today. It's insane. Much like the R1 and the R6, the 2005 to 2006 GSX-Rs varies quite a bit in price, but you can find some clean examples for right around $8,000. Or, if it suits your fancy, there are stretched, airbrushed, nitro boosted ones for like 20 grand, so you got options. Or maybe you're more of a sport touring ilk, in which case the 2014 to 2016 Ninja 1000 might suit your fancy. Sport touring bikes, or however you want to classify the Ninja 1000, are as really kind of slept on. When it was first released, Kawasaki propositioned this bike as a sport bike for the real world, making it one of the OG not-so-super bikes. It was originally built as a fully faired version of the Z1000 naked bike. Because the Ninja 1000 wasn't homologated for racing, concessions were made that made it more suitable for street use. It uses a 1043cc engine, inline 4, which means it's got extra 45 cubes compared to a ZX-10R, an upright seating position, and tweaked gearing. For all intents and purposes, these bikes, despite not being tried and true race replicas, still make a great amount of power. They're comfortable to ride and cost way less to buy and insure than their superbike counterparts. The Ninja 1000 is good for a claimed 138 horsepower and 81 foot-pounds of torque. It was updated in 2014 for improved throttle response and low mid-range. This era is a sweet spot because they don't have a ton of tech and they're alarmingly affordable. A 2014 Ninja 1000 can be had for between $6,000 and $8,000, making them nearly a half to two-thirds the price of a ZX-10 of the same year. Okay, in 2013, Kawasaki brought back the 636cc engine for the ZX-6R, and I don't know why, this generation really sticks in my mind. I think it looks the best, I think it's awesome, and when it came back with the 636, I think everybody just got really excited. These extra 36 cubes over the 599 that came before it made this generation ZX-6R the most powerful iteration of this bike to date. It was making a claimed 131 horsepower and 52 foot-pounds of torque. This is more power than is even being made by the ZX-6R that's in production today. The increased power, thanks in part to the increased displacement and engine tuning, was particularly noticeable at lower RPM. This is a big factor in why the 636 is still considered to be one of the best 600s for street riding. It was overhauled with new fairings, a new frame, a new dash, and improved Showa suspension. This generation ran from 2013 to 2018 when Euro 4 compliance came into effect. These model years can be found for between $7,000 and $8,000 as well, and seriously, I just think this one looks the best. I think it's one of the best gens. Come at me, I don't care. The 9th generation CBR 1000RR was released for the 2008 model year, and it was an all-new machine, and those who know about this bike. It's really damn good. It used a new 999cc four-cylinder with titanium valves. The engine had its bore increased to reduce the stroke in order to achieve a higher RPM redline. With ram air and a 12.3 to 1 compression ratio, the bike was as powerful as it ever had been, making 150 horsepower to the rear wheel and 75 foot-pounds of torque. Honda designed this bike with an effort to reduce and centralize the weight. Not only was the frame narrower and lighter, Honda touched practically every part of this machine to reduce weight, including everything from the side stand to the brake hoses, the battery, and the wheels. This generation of CBR 1000RR would only undergo minor changes through 2017. But the 2008 was totally raw, no ABS, no TC. The 2008 CBR 1000RR looks to go for between $7,000 and $8,000. That's a lot of bike for the money. All right, it's time for the wildcard section of the video. You want something fast, but yeah, you're gonna, go a little crazy. In 2014, KTM released what they called the Beast. Very fitting for early 2010s when everyone was talking about poning noobs and going beast mode. The Beast referred to the first gen Super Duke, and it is a beast. This bike had a 1301cc V-twin that was making 180 horsepower and 106 foot-pounds of torque. Literally unthinkable amounts of power for a naked bike. The first gen, which ran from 2014 to 2016, utilized pretty rudimentary tech. It was just a gigantic engine and frame, and God bless you, hope you don't die when you ride it. It had ABS and kind of a chopping traction control. But that just means the first gen Super Dukes that are still alive 8 to 10 years later didn't blow up and didn't get totaled out. So hey, according to Darwinism, they must be the genetic mutants that were better suited for survival. The suggested retail of a used first-gen Super Duke is right around $8,000, and that's a lot of bike for the money too. And the last wildcard addition to today's video is the Yamaha VMAX. The VMAX might not be a lot of things, but it is fast. That is without question. It's wickedly fast. I had the chance to ride the old school one and the new school one in a video. It was crazy. And the cool thing is the first gen ran relatively unchanged from the mid-80s through to 2007. The newer generation that ran from 2009 to 2020 are still selling for a pretty penny, but an OG VMAX in good shape from 2005 to 2007 can be had for anywhere between $5,000 and $7,000. Just think about that for a second. Brand new Ninja 500 or a 2007 Yamaha VMAX, baby? If I was a beginner rider in 2024, I think the choice would be clear. I'm just kidding, don't do that. The VMAX was Yamaha's adoption of the American muscle grandeur that made it an iconic fixture of the muscle cruiser category. That original 1197cc V4 engine made 145 horsepower at the crank and 83 foot-pounds of torque, but if you can get that second gen, oh man, those are wickedly fast. They're crazy. Nothing that big should rev that high. I don't know what Yamaha was smoking when they made that thing. The suspension is frightening, the brakes are probably not much better, but hey, they were produced unchanged for 25 years, so they must have not had too many wrongful death lawsuits, right? Thanks for making it all the way to the video. Hope you enjoyed this one. Be sure to subscribe if you're new to these parts, and I will catch you all later. Fact. If the Earth doubled in size, trees would immediately fall over because surface gravity would be doubled. Think about that. You'd sink right into the ground. You'd never get up. Goodbye. All right, guys, our time on this video has come to a close, but if you want to keep the conversation going, head over to yamanoob.co and become a member. I can talk to you on the Discord server. It's a lot of fun. You get access to behind the scenes content, and best of all, entries to win the giveaway bikes, like this one right here. It's coming to a close, so while you're waiting on that next video to queue up on your feed, make sure you become a member on yamanoob.co, and that way you get entered to win this bike, and the next bike, and the next bike, because 2025 is going to be crazy. There's going to be so many bikes coming and going. It's just nuts.